Perry Seal. I'm the Senior Manager of Product Strategy for Enterprise Item Content Enrichment and Data Quality. So big mouthful, don't worry, there's no quiz. But anything, how many of you guys, actually let's just do introductions first, I guess. Joining me?
Yeah, I'm Mini Rajkumar. I'm Perry's counterpart on the engineering side. I have the technical team that handles the item content enrichment.
And hello everyone, my name is Brendan Link and I'm a product manager on Perry's team. I run the merchandising, analytics, and insights team at Kroger, focused on giving insights about item attribution data quality.
Yeah. I'm Chris Still from CoStrategix. I help our clients with their ML, AI, data visualization, and advanced analytics problems.
Yeah.
And we also have Jeremy Henry's going to be joining us, but he's also worked on several of the Kroger projects that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about the project itself, not necessarily about Kroger the business. So we're really more of the front end for Jeremy's technical conversation and presentation here. But I wanted to invite Brendan as well because he's a recent UC grad last May, yes, who did 4 internship rounds with Kroger and then was hired on as an FTE in the product world. So for all of you folks who are either mentoring students, who are recently students, who are interested in product management, Kroger has a great internship program that actually turns into jobs. So I wanted to put that out there as a little intro. How many of you have actually walked into a Kroger store and gone shopping? Right? Okay. If you haven't raised your hands, I'm questioning you. How many of you guys have gone shopping on a Kroger e-commerce experience, either our website or our mobile app? Okay, at least 50%. That's good. All of you know who Kroger is, though, right? I mean, we're pretty significant. 132 billion in sales, 35 states, 9 million customers daily. One of the things I'm most proud of, one of America's most responsible companies, 2021. That responsibility is something we take very seriously. Our customers are our lives. You guys are our lives. And everything that we do is geared towards creating great experiences for customers. When it comes to item attribution, right, the data that goes on to, if you've been online, you've seen a product display page. Probably on that product display page, you've seen at least one image, maybe a calorie count, an e-commerce description. So as an attribute, those are all considered item attributes. 5 years ago, the Kroger.com website was not a retail website. It was not some place that you'd go shopping. You might find coupons there, but we've changed significantly over the past 5 years. The merchandising experience used to be, how big is a box? Length, width, height, how many boxes can we fit on a shelf? Where are those shelves placed? When you'd walk into a Kroger, you would really understand the calories, the nutritional claims, whether it was gluten-free, whether it would fit into a diet or a lifestyle that you had, based on physically picking up the package and looking at it, right? When we shifted to an e-commerce experience, and we still, 90% of our retail, like our revenue happens in stores, but we have an obligation to deliver a similar experience to our customers with an e-commerce experience. So our CPGs, our suppliers, they like to sell things, right? Now, believe it or not, they're not motivated to make Kroger number one, right? They're just as happy if somebody else sells their product as they are if we sell their product. So they are going to do the absolute bare minimum to get their product into our store shelves. Again, 90% of our revenue is still in store, right? So where do we get all of the information about calories, about gluten-free, about is this supportive of a keto lifestyle? Are there allergens? Is this contain a bioengineered ingredient, right? All of those things, all of that content, all of those attributes for items, that all has to come from somewhere. And if our customers are really motivated by how many eaches are in a pack, how many packs fit on a flat, and how many flats fit on a pallet, and that's the data that they're used to giving us because for 100 years that's all they had to give us, we've got to go out and find all of those lifestyle-focused or enriching attributes from a third party, or we've got to figure out how to pull it off of a package or use algorithms in order to understand what those attributes are and how to connect them. For myself, I like to talk about merchandising and about data quality and about attribution as kind of inside that motivation. Now, our customers talk about what they like, their needs and preferences. When we create amazing experiences like we do with 8451 and their data sciences, all of that is the wisdom, right? The difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? We're the purveyors of knowledge in the enterprise item space. How do we get the stuff? How do we attribute those items? How do we know as much as we can possibly know about the items so that the people that build those amazing experiences can use that knowledge in order to help you as a customer make an informed decision about what to buy, right? But actually acquiring that knowledge, that's not an easy thing to do. So when we go through the acquisition process, right, we've got to go discover it from one of many sources. We've got to enrich that content in order to make it the best that it can possibly be in order to help people make those decisions. Curate it, because believe it or not, sometimes we get information about an item from more than one source, right? And then what's right? And then make it available and accessible for our downstream customers, which still include all of our 4,000 retail stores across the country, right? At Kroger, we talk about ways that we can serve our customers, why Kroger is such an amazing company and what we've got that other people don't have. If you've listened to our investor calls, you've heard the term competitive moat. What are those moats around the Kroger castle that we invest in order to make sure that we've got the best opportunity to win and serve our customers? Customer data is one of those key competitive moats, and that's the linkage between the attribute that an item has and the experiences that we can create from a shopping and merchandising standpoint. Some fun stats: 500 billion personalized recommendations. How many of you have received that mail packet with coupons in it from Kroger? Yeah? Open that up and gone, holy crap, they know exactly what I think, right? That comes from that data. Those recommendations, they're not just electronic, they're physical as well, are based off of the data sciences and connected to products that you've either purchased in the past or that we think you might like to purchase. This is a fun one as well. I don't even know what a petabyte is. It seems big, though. I think it's bigger maybe than a megabyte or a kilobyte or even a terabyte. Like, there's a lot of customer data there, and we use that in order to help you guys make responsible decisions. And we do that by developing knowledge, right? We partner with 8451 to understand what the customer's needs are. We did one around produce. Quotes from customers: eating healthier food is the #1 food job for Kroger and has been increasing in importance. And 53% of our customers say it's important that produce items they buy help improve their well-being. There is a focus on well-being, right? We're contributing that, and we're committed to that focus on well-being. I'm going to hand it to Brendan right now to talk a little bit about this slide right here, because this is actually the product of his team.
Yeah, so when we think about data quality in terms of how that matches up with meeting our customers' needs, high quality data is super important for us to be able to actually meet the needs of our customers and give them the relevant info that they want. When we think about shopping products online, it's not just a one-size-fits-all problem for data quality. So recently, we've done a lot of analysis around edible items, and more specifically, fresh edible items at Kroger. And what we found is that today we do a good job serving our customers high quality, relevant data on the nutritional information of these items. But as you can also see through our analysis, there are gaps in this data. And so our goal throughout this year is to work to close that gap and ideally make this whole circle green, where we have complete nutritional information that we're serving to our customers for edible and fresh items. And that's our goal for 2022, is to complete that.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you look at this and you're like, wait, Kroger only knows half? No. We know about all of our products. We feel really, really good about that knowledge, about half of the items that we sell from an edible standpoint. And that's reflected if you go online, and Jeremy or Chris is going to talk about opt-up score. Like, we want all of the data in order to make those experiences better. Now, why is it so hard? I blurred this for a reason. It's probably proprietary. Maybe put that camera away. I don't know. This is Kroger's attribution, enrichment, and data management system right here. All of the inputs, all of the systems, it's not easy, right? And I'm not a technical person. That's Minnie. So I don't need to know or understand this other than to know that there's a lot of work that goes in on the front end. There's a lot of work that goes into the curation process. And there's a lot of work that goes into giving the data to our downstream consumers in a format that they can use in order to create those experiences to serve our customers. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris to talk about that process.
Well, as Perry just said, this isn't easy, right? So that's where CoStrategix comes in. Because it's not so easy to go from this to an online e-commerce experience, right? There's a lot of nuance, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Can you hold this one?
Yeah.
I'll call back. You've never met before, right?
Sure.
You don't know me, we have no idea.
Am I going to buy this off you or something?
No, you're getting, I'll tell you what, you're going to get to keep it. So, there you go. So, we're actually going to be talking about 5 different initiatives that we did with Kroger. Each one has its own unique, not one-size-fits-all solution. And hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. So to have the quality that Perry's talking about, what does the characteristics of that system need to be? It needs to be able to be adaptable, right? This stuff changes all the time. We're all practitioners in here. We know what that's all about, right? We talk about scalability all the time, but the new word is elastic, right? And like to feel like this slide. It has to be scalable, but also it has to be optimal, right? It needs to scale up and down. It needs to know when to do that. It needs to be in an automated fashion. I can't babysit the solution all day. You need to be able to add and change the models, right? Things shift. There's drifts. Automation, 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 right? That's a key word that everybody's hearing at work these days, right? Who's heard that word recently, like in the last month? Yeah, I probably all of you. But you can also keep the human in the loop. Some of the most valuable feedback that you can have is data from audits, right? Where you have a human look at it and say how the machine is doing. We're not saying like test every single record, but you can do a handful here and there, and that can really, have a step change in the performance of your models. I don't have a clicker, so I better stop wondering.
You can just point at me.
Again, Kroger, this is not the actual solution architecture, but this is a reference architecture. Again, it's a standard MLOps flow, where you're scoping your project, you're doing all your experimentation, then you're switching into deployment, and then you have those monitoring things that I talked about. You have triggers for retraining. You have the feedback loop, going back in and redoing validations. You have audits in there. You have your stores for your versioning. Your feature stores for the features you create. Your performance volume, any metrics you want, go in that box there. And then you have your regular CI/CDs. This is happening automatically. I mean, yes, we check in on it from time to time, but all this happens in the background. So challenge number 1, if I can. Is it? I think we got off there.
Click the right arrow.
Oh, we got hooked up there. Well, we're talking about images. What's the first thing you see when you walk into a grocery store? You look with your eyes, right? It's the first thing you're looking for. Not the sounds, maybe the smell, right? But really, it's the images, right? So that's the first thing that Perry has to put up when he puts it into an e-commerce experience, is a front-facing image of the product. Easy enough, right? There it is. You got also some lifestyle images and some side of the packages. But you really want to see that front, because what's on the front? The brand, the products, all the marketing stuff, right? What could possibly go wrong with images? Anyone who's ever taken a picture? Well, here's some of my personal best. If you want to hire me for weddings, I'm like ready to go. Like, you need to hire me for a wedding. Those are actual wedding photographers, not my wedding, but other people's weddings. Here's all the things that, some of the things you saw in those last images. Is there a glare? Is it blurry? Is it not even in there? Is it just blank? But there's also some contextual things, like if you do it from the wrong angle, from the side, the top, you may not know what the product is. Other content in there, like that lifestyle image. You saw the little goldfish, but sometimes our vendors send things that you have no idea what it is. You have non-English stuff. Expiration dates. Would you really be excited if you saw a fresh product on the website and had the expiration date on there? because I guarantee you it's most likely to expire, right? Unless it's like a canned item. Adult content, but that's a tricky one, right? When you're training a model, because you have certain like flavors of some beer microbrews or wines that have what are borderline content, so you don't want to kick that out, but you also want to make sure that you're protecting young people and keep that. So it's not as easy as just get rid of all bad words and bad images. It's a little more complex than that. Here's some actual product images from Kroger's database. Examples of some of the things I just talked about. I'm still haven't figured out exactly what that is. There's an expiration date on that. You can see the cereal, but you don't know who it is. This is dated, right? She's dating somebody else now, I'm sure. This one's an obvious one. This, you get that tiny thing. What is that? When you see that online, and this may or may not be a soda. It could be something else, right? So here's some of those challenges we got. Vendor data is like a box of chocolates. The old Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get, right? Obviously, the images require special handling. This isn't structured data, right? So you've got storage issues, you've got processing and time issues, and then Perry's teams serve more than one person. It's not just merchandising, it's marketing. They have different requirements. They might have a different cutoff, right? They might have a different standard of quality. So we had to make the solution flexible to be able to deal with that as well. Modeling challenge. There were some of these things that they were asking us to do. No one had really there wasn't like a bunch of research I could go out to check how to solve that problem. There's a lot of unsupervised learning. Like what is quality? That's kind of a fuzzy word, right? And there were multiple reasons that I showed you for rejection. So do I chain a super intelligent AI that can solve every image problem? I'm good, but I'm not that good. So probably not, right? So we ended up actually doing multiple models and kind of broken them up into individual things based on these rejection reasons that the manual people were already doing when they were annotating images. I need some water. No. Solution highlights. That's great. Yeah. Like I said, we created configurable APIs, so based upon the context of the business problem, they can adjust the model and return those results. Customized versions of some regular learning architectures. And then also we did time to value. We did this in phases. So it's like we could have done like a year-long or multi-year project and not delivered any value, but we broke it up into pieces. We did a discovery session before to really get our arms around, because we talked about in the keynote session how about 80% of projects right now are not even making it to production. And one way you can do that is make sure that you plan and scope your project right. Know that you're working on the right thing, you're not chasing the wrong problem. We did a lot of experimentation, but we did that in a structured way. We defined everything up front, so we weren't just having people, the two models you get is you've got an inexperienced team over here that's running around, trying to do the best possible model, and theirs doesn't perform real well, or you got the PhDs over here, talking to you, my man, that'll spend way too much time getting, performance that you don't even need. You just need the good enough model. So try to find that middle by making sure your experiments are designed experiments, not just an open-ended thing, and then do it in a multi-phase way. That also helps you control your costs. If you have a budget issue, you can break this up into pieces. And I think Perry said, as long as you just get 3 of them, I'll be ecstatic. And there was like 15, right? So manage your expectations. So where are my CPG people in the house tonight? Any CPG people? That's the one. That's the one. So I come from a Procter & Gamble household, Chris in the bathroom, Tide in the laundry room, and Folgers and Jif, which that's changed obviously, in the pantry. So, obviously the CPGs, want to make sure that you're including that brand attribute in the attributes on the e-commerce site. So, people in the back, can you even tell what this is? Back there, right there. No, you can't even tell. If I put his feet, you might, right? That you kind of get it, right? You here right in front. Who made it? No idea. No idea. I'll just keep this in the honor of Easter, but that is an actual product from the Easter seasonal aisle in a Kroger.
Does it poop jelly beans?
It does not poop jelly beans. I'm sorry. We need to talk about pricing, by the way, my friend. I didn't. They denied my expense report on that. But here you go. Again, Goldfish. Obviously, that's a pretty obvious family brand. So obviously, the problem here is how do we attribute brand to the text that we get from our vendors as well as the images themselves. So it's shorter than the tweet, this description that I'm talking about, and that's the only information that contains the brand, if it contains it at all. And usually tweets, they got a little feeling to them, right? such and such sucks, or I can't believe they did X, Y, Z. So you get some contextual clues. This is domain flat, so you don't get a lot of information. There's ambiguity. Is Pop-Tarts the brand or is Kellogg's the brand? Technically, Kellogg's is the brand, but it's so ubiquitous that people know it as Pop-Tarts. So I've got to get a model to figure that out. That's hard enough for a human to figure out. And then obviously there's no consistency in the length of that text, the position of where the brand is. On the images, it's all over the place if it's even there. And obviously there's quality issues. I can't read the brand if I can even find it in the image. So it's not real explainable, right? Perry's like, oh, you got 5 of these wrong. Why? And I'm like, oh, that's what it said, right? Now, that doesn't usually fly with your business leader, right? Not a lot of label training for brands we've never seen before. How many items are you adding on the marketplace on average?
We have 2 million items in marketplace right now.
So how many new brands do you think come in on a regular basis, right? You do the math on that. And then, obviously we're going to have to invest to get that training data or have people manually label things. So there's an upfront cost that's associated with the modeling for these kinds of problems. So what do? We came up with a 2-stage approach. We worked with the text and got as many brands as we put out of there. We had pretty good performance. And then for the ones that we did not resolve, then we went to the images. And this guy right up here in the front did some pretty creative models to both find those images as well as to do the entity recognition on the brands as well. So now I'm going to shift a little bit. These next 3 problems are directly related to nutrition, healthy eating, and all those things. And we'll bring the goldfish back into play. So this is actually the original where that term "you are what you eat." This is the guy that gets attributed with it. He's also considered the father of the low-carb diet. He's very anti-wheat and carb and everything. He had a cheese named after himself. But he was also a lawyer and politician. So was he in with the cheese special interests? I don't know. I haven't taken my research that deep, but we'll find out, I guess. Here's some examples of, it was an original app, but now it's built into your Kroger app, the opt-up. So this is the view you get today, along with the score that you see for healthy eating. So you actually take the items that are in your cart, and they do it across these scores, and they do that based on what? The nutrition facts and the ingredients and things that are in the item. Kroger has stepped out front, and they have marketing and messaging around food as medicine. This was researched by the marketing and public health department at UC, and they gave them like a little award for that. So it's another UC thing. This, in my defense, this is like the week before a 9-year-old's birthday party, so it's not what it usually is. I'll have to get you the trend, obviously. But nutrition facts was the third problem they had. They needed us to take that panel on the side of the goldfish model and also the other items and parse that out and turn that into a consumable data source so that they could then feed that into the app. They have a graph database that kind of puts that all together. And so to get that serving, we had to solve that problem. Again, it's easy, right? You just text, you do the OCR, it's done. No problem, right? You're not gonna have any trouble at all. Is anybody skeptical of that? Raise your hand if you're skeptical of that. I kind of set it up, but yeah. So here's the actual label for illustration purposes from the goldfish. And here's some of the problems we faced. We didn't have a lot of data. It was like about 2,000 records to get started. This was fun. They're using the same abbreviation for 3 different, not even related terms, right? So once you start pulling across multiple labels, you get things like that. You had inconsistent units, so you had percent RDA for recommended daily value, or grams, or pounds. We are still on the SI system as opposed to the rest of the world. So those are some of the challenges that we face with the data itself. The curse of dimensionality always comes up when you don't have insufficient training data, right? You have this many samples and about 60 or 70 variables to do over 2,000 records. It's going to be pretty hard to get a very well-performing model. Anomalies are rare by definition. So we had unbalanced data is another way of saying that, right? There were only a few things that we were calling out as bad quality. And across this data set, all those anomalies weren't the same, right? Some might be in the values, some might be the wrong nutritional fact, and I'll show you how that plays out in the solution. So we actually did treat this as an anomaly detection problem. We did not try to
use text mining or NLP for this. We were actually just finding the things that were out of the ordinary. And so for that, and to recognize those patterns, we actually broke the data and the attributes into groups. So one of the common groups was macronutrients, right? That's what you use for everything. So calories, protein, fats. There's an equation, right, that can solve that. We didn't even tell the model that equation. I don't even know that equation, and I'd have to look it up, but I don't know that equation. The model was able to find things that were out of line. And so, for example, there being milk that had no calcium. That doesn't make any sense, right? But it was able to identify those just based upon the patterns of data. And by grouping them, I didn't have to worry about, modeling 10 variables. I could just do the one dimension based upon. Another one we used was like trace elements, all the little elements you see on the side of the package. And then, so we ended up obviously with multiple models for each of these domains. And to manage that, we used MLOps, DevOps, to handle, the retraining, the checking, we had the audits and all that stuff as well. So the next question. Ingredients is the other thing on the side of the package, right? Tom, help me out here.
Yeah.
What is goldfish made with?
Made with smile.
Made with smile. How tell a machine learning algorithm that that's not an ingredient, that's a nuance of the packaging. Also, along with that, and here I'll bring up, there it is, made with smile. There's a lot of other kind of wonky things that go on with ingredients because they're trying to save space on the packaging. They don't want to dedicate a bunch of space. So you see here, there's an ingredient that has ingredients. So wheat flour has all those ingredients. It has vegetable oils, and then it lists them, not repeating the word oil. There's abbreviations. There's things like this at the end, contains wheat and milk, which is there for the allergies. So we're having to parse, just all we're seeing is just a big, long, flat text string, right? And so we had to figure out a way to do that. Well, ultimately, for this one, well, like I said, there's Mismatch Generation, there's the nested ingredients. Oh, the best one is like the Kroger organic black beans. It's like black beans, ingredient, black beans. So you know that would confuse a computer, right? An algorithm would be like just going around and around forever on that. Shortcuts, like I said, the abbreviations and leaving words out, and then you got all those chemicals, which are very domain specific, non-English terms. Like, it's one thing to create a translation algorithm that translates English to French, but what happens when you give that an organic chemistry book? It doesn't do as well, right? So all these domain things are things that we had to teach the algorithm. So it wasn't really a good ML problem. So we actually did use software-based solutions, algorithms, to do that. The recursive parking, so looping through the ingredient list. Things like distance algorithms, the next things, we're really trying to see how close is a string or how many changes I would have to make this match. And that tells you how close the two things are. And those had to be greedy because we had to loop through multiple times. And then using multiple examples to resolve synonyms. And then the one problem with this, though, is pretty high maintenance, like a Kardashian, right? So the other thing that you need to think about with this is we actually created reference lists of the things that were kind of weird, and we actually were maintaining those on a regular basis. So ultimately, it worked great. We did the audits to find those patterns that popped up as the data changes through time. But we also probably long-term, we're going to target to make this either a hybrid or a full ML model going forward as we can gather more data about good and bad matches. And so how do you think that, so fresh foods is our formula. How do you think I can top goldfish, our little Easter chicken, as far as my takeaway giveaways from the thing? How do you think I can, because I got something right here. That's right. Carrots. One of you are going to walk away with these carrots. All right? So fresh foods, and we're not just talking about produce, right? We're talking about deli, meat, seafood. They don't have stickers on them, do they? They don't have packaging usually. So there are images, obviously, but there's not the branding, there's not labeling. There might be an organic label, but usually that's at the point of sale. That's not usually actually on the product. So we went out to the good old federal government, the United States Department of Agriculture, to get an external database to solve this one. It's a government database. How quality do you think that and I hope nobody works for the government. But if you do, it's fine. We pay taxes. It was pretty messy, right? There was no primary identifier. So carrots over here, I can only match that on text, right? Lots of ambiguity. banana, the nutrients for that 100 grams of food. Unsupervised learning, it's a fuzzy matching problem as it starts. But this is really important, right? You saw the donut chart up there. Like, they really want to resolve as many of these as possible because these are all important items that are bought fairly regularly. So again, we use that human in the loop concept of audits on what we were getting right and what we were getting wrong. And that helped us both through the experimentation, deployment phase, as well as it's an ongoing thing. Every week it runs that, and if there's a drift in performance, it'll retrain the model based upon that audit data. As far as the techniques we use a maximum co-occurrence model for the matching, and then transfer learning, so it was iteratively learning, and that feedback was going throughout the neural network. And then we did have exception handling again, like things like mushrooms and herbs and things. We just gave up, and we said, okay, we have a reference set that gets introduced to that model every time it's fit. So, just to recap, because we are getting a little time. So for image curation, the solution highlight was, it's a portfolio of models, and I'm also dating myself. RVs used to be 5 for 5 way back when, but I don't know if it might be too soon for an inflation joke. But brand matching was, we did text and images. Nutrition facts, we focused on the feature engineering, local learning, and then mixing up optimizing that group of models that we created. Straight up algorithms for ingredients and transfer learning and human in the loop. None of it's one size fits all, right? There's one for each of the animals at the end of the day. So where do we go from here? Turn this back over to Brendan, or are you taking this one?
Just we're closing out at this point, right? I mean, the answer is that there is no answer. It's just ongoing work. The end goal of having the best unimpeachable data quality across all dimensions, all categories. If you see Kroger getting into general merchandise with Bed Bath & Beyond and Bye Bye Baby, they present a whole different set of challenges. So
we turn over questions. Who's making soup tonight on this cold rainy day?
He's here. Yeah, there you go. He wants the carrots back there.
So I got a question. So this opt-up score, right? I don't have it. So who actually creates this model? Is it CoStrategix or?
No, that's
It's us.
that's us.
It's Kroger.
Yep.
We have an algorithm inside our software to develop that score.
Oh, okay. So is it 8451 or is it Kroger?
8451 developed it and then transferred it over to my team to implement in order to pass through with all of the other item attributes. That's a really interesting use case because it's the first Kroger-derived attribute. It's not something that you'll see in any other sources, and we use all of the data that we have in order to generate that score. That score is Kroger intellectual property, and gosh, at some point it might be really interesting to monetize that if CPGs would like to help themselves increase their opt-up score in order to compare favorably with other. I mean, like, there is no end to the possibilities of what we could do with item attribution.
So one of the questions I have is when I go and click on that, right? It says my opt-up score, but it does not tell me which items are actually increasing the score, which items are.
It does if you dig into it. That's user experience, though. That's not my team.
Okay.
Yeah, the screenshot that I created was from my app, so it's like a next page in, like you can look at the individual items.
Play around with it. Play around with it. My opt-up score is even worse than his. So.
So for that op-ed score, one of you talked about you're missing a lot of data, or you're not confident in a lot of the data, about half. How confident are you in that score actually being accurate? Are you missing half of the fresh stuff? Are you missing half of the fried chip?
Yeah, so anything that's got an opt-up score would fall into the green category.
Yeah.
So we're incredibly confident about all of the items that we're grading. We would just like to grade all of the items.
But is that, I guess my question is are you biased on what you don't know? And maybe you don't know what you don't know, but like, do you not know the junk food area, or do you not know the produce area well? Is it?
It's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of
You
everything.
only had half.
Yeah, we definitely are following the paradigm of don't let perfect get in the way of good. We want to provide information to our customers and give them those experiences to help them make informed decisions. And as we do that, we want to continue to grow our data set in order to help them make informed decisions about all of the items.
Okay, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, I saw conformity on your list of attributes. Are you expecting your customers to conform the data, or
No, it's
Kroger IT
Kroger.
is conforming the data?
We would love it if our CPGs would be like, if we could just solve all of our attribution data problems upstream.
Directed towards the customer.
And that's where all these solutions come into play, our AI ML solutions too, because IT cannot say if it is confirmed or anything like that, like a human being. So we use machine language to do a lot of those type of things.
So we're very loyal Kroger customers. Though I'm new to this op score, I'm curious where you're taking it. So, I mean, the last several years, of course, carbon footprint, and everyone celebrates that and sustainability. Is your vision for that score that mom could be celebrated for and promote and put on Facebook that she is giving this type of help to her family? And
We have an
where are you going with
opt-up product team that is
Yeah.
looking at all of those possibilities, and we're
Yeah.
looking at other potential Kroger-derived attributes that might lend themselves to lifestyle and assortment purchasing decision-making. So yeah, I mean, we want, right now, Kroger's a retail site.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Kroger, why? To look at items, to purchase items for pickup or delivery. Our goal is for Kroger to be a destination site. We are the food authority. We want to be a source not only for purchase, but for inspiration as well. And that's why content enrichment, that word enrichment, that's a heavy weight, but I'll take it. We've got a long way to go. We've done a lot of amazing things. I mean, if you've seen in the last 5 years where we've come from, but we've got incredible opportunities to serve as well.
So, when it comes to business leadership coming to you with a problem and wanting you to solve it with a very popular ML term, what's your strategy for deciding if the problem is solved with ML, or is there underlying issues that need to be corrected?
What do we start every problem with?
Discovery. Yep. Go through discovery and just determine how might we best solve this problem for our users. And so a lot of the work that my team has done and is going to do going into this year is really working directly with our users to understand what their needs are around the data quality, and then go through discovery, both problem discovery and then solution discovery, to determine would machine learning be the correct approach to solve that use case.
Believe it or not, sometimes it's a human being with a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yep.
Depends on the problem you're
Yeah.
solving.
AI and ML is super sexy though. Like we always say.
Okay, go ahead.
With you developing all the machine learning in the application for Kroger, how did you ensure that when you handed off it was like a smooth transition and they had all the access and everything?
Because they told us to? No.
It's a
But,
collaborative effort.
yeah.
We meet with them like it's every week.
Yeah.
We have discussions and all that in the end, and we are actually partnering with the CoStrategix to make sure that we understand the design, we understand the core behind and everything. And at the end, there is a huge transfer of knowledge and training, and we do all those to make sure my team can maintain and support going forward.
Robust statements of work with serious legal language.
But I mean, the only thing I would add to that is, like ML ops school I grew up with, but the more that you adopt to those best practices, the easier it is. It's not a bunch of extra overhead for CoStrategix to hand that over and do that knowledge transfer.
Great work on the things that you are doing in machine learning and all those. But when you apply deep learning methods like neural network and everything at your training data, don't you see the challenges regarding the overfitting of the model and how you are going to deploy in the production side and all those things because of the lack of the training data?
We worked that out during the experimentation phase. I mean, I always start with a business goal and a modeling goal. If I'm not meeting those goals, I'm not going to extend on to MVP and go into deployment after that. So those things all get worked out, and that is the worst problem you can have as a data scientist is a data collection problem, right? If you don't have the data you need. But we also, for like the image project, we created our own little UI, internal UI
so that people could do labeling of images, because it wasn't that we were necessarily missing image data, we were just missing a lot of labeling. So we just had our own little, somebody does a couple hundred here and there, and so we just built it up over time without a huge investment in a UI or a huge investment in extra people to do that tagging, or going out to a mechanical Turk or something like that. But yeah, sometimes, and that's the worst thing you ever want to face, is be able to look at somebody across the table and say, your data does not support the type of analysis. Fortunately, that wasn't the case, and we had creative ways to work around this, but you may face that problem, and that, that's part of your responsibility as you, get more experience is, making those calls, making those tough calls, because it's not going to be well received, but you also don't want to waste a bunch of time. They're talking in Keynote, the most valuable time you have is your experienced analytics professionals, so you don't want to waste time on a problem that you can't solve.
It's also why problem discovery is so important, and having those upfront conversations. And as a business person, like the second best thing that I can hear from a partner is, no, this doesn't make sense, right? Because then, okay, I can move on to something else that I'm going to need to do. Yes is the best. Yes, we can solve this tomorrow. That's like all time. But no, this does not lend itself to this particular method of solutioning. I'm totally comfortable hearing that.
So Andy kind of was talking about some of this stuff earlier and mentioned some success stories where they were able to partner with their partners, not vendors, partners, right? And I was just wondering, is it the kind of thing where you could reach out to, say, Kellogg's, and they've got a smart guy like Brendan there, and you sync them up? Do you have any success stories like Andy mentioned doing that?
Yeah, ongoing. I mean, we strive to get as close as we can to our vendor partners. We actually, and this is not my team, but just built a brand new API for attribution ingestion. There are over 600 potential attributes for any given item out there. So we would love it, like I said, I would love it if all of this would be solved upstream outside of Kroger systems, and all of our suppliers had all of the best information about all of their products and could just give it to us. Like, that would be great. But the reality is that that's not the case. And then when you take a look at things like Kroger-owned attributes, we would need to do some transformations within Kroger systems in order to come up with those values, in order to add value. But yeah, we partner all the time very closely with our CPGs and our suppliers, and we're also building tools for them to give us more better, fresher data.
Yeah, so I was going to say, you guys probably have enough weight to throw around to create the standard, right?
I mean, more now than I really did at the beginning of the pandemic, but yeah, I mean, it is fun working for a 300-pound gorilla sometimes.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe one last question. Yes. The LSTM model that you were showing, right? Was it for labeling the image?
That was for the textual portion of the branding piece. So it was bi-directional, and it was we started by trying to use, I'm going technical because I'm going to you guys the technical questions. So we used the glove training to do the translating for that, but we actually decided to do a custom corpus to push that through. And we actually trained that model separately, bi-directional by itself, CNF by itself, and then the LTSF by itself, but we found the best performance when we put all three of those elements together in a chain approach.
So either strategically or technically or analytically, what was the biggest failure that you guys had through this process that you think others should learn from?
Mine's easy. That algorithmic maintenance issue, like over time, that got pretty unwieldy as we kept having exception after exception. So that was probably the biggest learning. Was like probably, even though it worked real well, over time, that's short-term thinking and not long-term thinking, and that's pretty common, I think, in MLs. Don't sacrifice the long-term for the short-term.
How did you overcome that?
Like I said, I think we're going into a next phase on that one and cutting it over to machine learning because it hasn't broken yet. But maybe I'm going to call after this.
Connected to that, the audit process, making sure that we have the processes internally in place in order to support the audit for continued improvement. It's really great to accept a solution and commit to an audit process, but then if you don't actually follow through and improve the data over time, that kind of defeats the purpose of having a learning model. So getting business stakeholders to sign up for some manual effort in order to improve that process over time.
So I got a question from the corner.
Yeah, how do you kind of package all the learnings from these efforts to make changes to private selection itself flows through your systems, or maybe the standards you have for how those products are labeled and presented online?
That's an ongoing process. We still have a lot of learnings to go through and document. So yeah, eventually there will be something that we package up for our next initiative.
It's a really interesting point that you bring up, because Kroger is not only a retailer but also a manufacturer. And the data that we have on our items, on our brand's items, Private Selection, Simple Truth, Tennis Fairs, like all of those Kroger brand items, believe it or not, is not the best data. They are our providers as well as we are their retailers, as well as we're all under the same umbrella. So it gives us an in-house use case, but you'd be surprised. The data isn't always the best, even from the people that you have the most influence over.
As far as images, do you care if your image is the same as competitors like Walmart?
Do we care?
Do you want them to be distinct, or do you want them to be the same, or?
That's an interesting question. My gut says I don't care, right? I mean, it comes from a third party. As long as the image is accurate and we can pull the data off of it, that's what I care about. Whether or not somebody else has the same image, I don't care. If they have a better image than we do, then I care. Then I get a little salty. But, yeah. I think we're done. Thank you.